Ayan, okay. So ako ba yung nawala?
Ako yun. It said
Oh,
Zoom
okay.
unexpectedly. But I'm back, so hopefully wala nang unexpected closing ng mga applications. Welcome everyone again.
Yeah, thank you so much. And ayan, ang dami rin nag-chime in, Nikki, sa chat, like John, good afternoon from Kawayan City, Isabella, and si Mark, Kevin, nagbakasyon pa sa simbahan. And Pauline's also watching again with us, joining from EK at Santa Rosa, Laguna. So, hello, everyone.
Hello everyone, to all those who are new and all those who are, have been part of our community for the last 3 years. Thank you so much for joining in.
Yes, and ayun, as we start this afternoon, let's introduce muna yung PW. So, positive workplaces. We co-create cultures that enhance the well-being of the Filipino workforce. So, ayan. Syempre, hindi naman namin yan magagawa ng kami lang. That's why we also have you guys. And it also starts with positivity ripple. So, we believe na yung positivity ripple, nagsistart siya with you, like leading the self, like watching the webinars that we have, and, enrolling in our courses. And as you lead yourself, 'di ba? Parang malilid mo rin yung others, and at the same time you will also lead cultures that will create positive workplaces. And ayan, I will introduce myself kasi hindi pa ako nagpapakilala, ang dami-dami ko ng chika, pero ayan. Hi, I'm Joyce. I'm the Learning and Development Associate of Positive Workplaces. And right now we will have our first free webinar for April, and that will be led by Nikki, our Chief Wellbeing Officer. So right now, we will have the Maximizing Your Energy as a Coach Leader. And ang theme po natin for the whole April will be Strengths Coaching for Leaders. And we believe na kahit na feeling mo parang hindi naman ako leader, pero you can lead in your own way. So, ayun. So, stay tuned for the remaining webinars pa po kasi for sure marami tayong matutunan. And some reminders lang po. So, have another device or be ready to go to another link kasi kung first time mong umattend, gumagamit po kami ng website called Menti. Don't worry, anonymous naman po yun. Lahat ng sasabihin nyo, hindi namin malalaman. So, it's anonymous. And for those of you na since 2020 nandito na po, alam nyo naman po, nasuki na rin po kami ng Menti. Ayan. And prepare paper and pen for your notes kasi for sure marami pong matututunan from Nikki. And we highly encourage engagement with the audience, but please be respectful in the chat. And kitang-kita naman po namin na very respectful naman po tayo sa chat. So, keep it up po. Ayan. And for the evaluation form, ayan, sa mga nagtatanong po kung may attendance po ba or meron po bang certificate? Meron po, pero the evaluation form will be issued at the end of the webinar. And for those in the Zoom room only. Kasi po, kung hindi niyo po natatanong, live po tayo ngayon sa YouTube. So, yung mga friends niyo po na hindi na po kasya sa Zoom, pwede po silang magpunta sa YouTube para po makita yung live stream natin. And of course, remember po sa evaluation, form yung 10. So, yung 10 stands for title. Check niyo po yung title. So, yung title po ngayon is Maximizing Your Energy as a Coach Leader. And then email, write your email po na gumagana para po hindi na siya mapunta sa spam or anywhere po. And of course, write your name kasi hindi na po namin yan magbabago once na nalagay niyo na po yung name. And of course, for any concerns about evaluations or certificates, you may email us at engage@positiveworkplaces.org. And we will only be entertaining inquiries regarding evaluations and certificates up to 1 week after the event. So, ayan. Dahil tapos na po tayo sa maraming reminders na to at sana napakinggan niyo po ng mabuti, nag-start na po tayo with our first April free webinar with Nikki na entitled po, Maximizing Your Energy as a Coach Leader. So, I give it up to you, Nikki.
Thank you so much, Joyce, for leading us into the intros and the reminders in this webinar. So today's topic is maximizing your energy as a coach leader. So let me just go to the next slide. And I'm Nikki. I'm the Chief Wellbeing Officer of Positive Workplaces. I've introduced myself so many times, but I think something very glaring about my introductions is I'm such a psychology junkie. I've been studying it for over a decade, but any chance that I get to really get more learning, attend more trainings, I really dive into those opportunities. And in 2022, one of the trainings that I've actually done was to become an accredited strengths profile practitioner. The reason that I'm so obsessed with positive psychology was actually because in 2016, my former boss gave me a book about strengths, and I just loved the message of strengths. I wanted to bring it to more people. So this is one of the days where I get to live out that dream of bringing that topic and that mindset of strengths to more people. So thanks so much for being here with me. This whole April webinar series is actually about strengths coaching for leaders. I'm doing maximizing your energy as a coach leader, but Gio actually, who is going to be joining us next week, talking about back to basics, beginning with character strengths. He's using a different tool from what I'm using today. So if you want to learn more about that tool, please join us again next week. And we actually have a third webinar to be led by John, who is going to be completing his accreditation soon. He's going to talk about enhancing team performance as a strengths coach. So I want to ask you, is it your first time to hear about strengths profile? That's actually the tool or the framework that I'm using. Please scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the chat box. Fun fact, our first ever webinar 3 years ago was actually about strengths and strengths profile in particular. So it feels like a coming home to in this session that we get to talk about it again. I know some of you were there in that very first webinar, but I know there are so many more attendees today. Is this your first time to hear about strengths profile? Just so that I get a feel of to what depth I should go into this. Should I spend more time introducing strengths profile? Very interesting. Okay, so it looks like majority of us, 80% of us, were quite new to strengths profile and the tool. 20% have maybe tried it out before or attended a previous webinar where we discussed it, and 3% are not sure. I know it gets confusing sometimes because there's many different strengths, tests, assessments. So I will give you an overview of it here in this session. So as I told you, in 2016, my boss gave me a book about strengths, and with that book came a code so that I could do my own strengths assessment. And I really loved that book. But when I went to Australia, I learned that there was not just one particular framework or school of thought when it came to strengths. There's actually three. So if you want to get familiar about what those three are about, I highly encourage you to attend the other webinars this month of April. If you have colleagues who want to learn about how they can, make sure everybody in your organization knows about strengths, please invite them here or to the other webinars as well. Truth be told, I love all three. I have taken all three, and I'll do a little walkthrough with all of you about what those three look like. Today, we're going to be using strengths profile as a tool. Yung core question ng strengths profile is, what energizes you? for strengths profile, it's not enough that you're good at something for it to be considered your strength. It has to energize you as well. So if you take this test, and we'll send you a link later, you can learn your strengths, your weaknesses, your learned behaviors. And if you join Gio in the next webinar, the core question of the VIA character strengths that he's going to be tackling is, who are you? What are your values? What is your core character? And if you join John's webinar, what the focus of Strengths Finder is, what do you do well? What are your talents and what are your skills? The most popular, if you're considering how many people have taken it, the most popular is actually Strengths Finder. They've been around for so long, and Don Clifton, who founded Strengths Finder, is actually considered the father of strengths psychology. So 25 million people have taken that. For Strengths Profile, it's newer in this field. 1 million people have taken it, and the VIA character strength, 7 million people have taken it. A lot of people ask, okay, I want something na parang we will be able to recognize the language. It's simple enough. On that level, Strengths Profile, it's actually a bit more complex than the others, in the sense that there are 60 strengths that it will categorize. Yung VIA character strengths, there are 24. And for Strengths Finder, there's 34. For you to get a look at what would the strengths be for each of those, I've actually listed some of my top strengths here. For Strengths Profile, let me show you my strengths. This is what a strengths profile, what a starter profile would look like. So these are the words, like they focus on very specific activities. Let me share you mine. This is what mine looks like. So that's the language, like unconditionality is a top strength, drive, mission. Those are my top strengths in Strengths Profile. And ito naman yung VIA character strengths. It's more leaning towards values. Like here, my top strength is gratitude, hope, perspective. And now let me show you my Strengths Finder. So this is what my top strengths are: connectedness, empathy, relator, maximizer, intellection. I do find that there are a lot of overlaps in this. My recommendation for people actually is, sometimes they'll ask me, Nikki, I want to bring strengths to my school or to my organization. Which one should I choose? Well, for that, it really depends. Which one is more aligned to your goals? And for a lot of people, it comes down to budget. So for instance, Strengths Profile and VIA character strengths, meron siyang free version. Yung Strengths Finder, I think as far as I know, it is $10 per test. So that's something that people have to consider as well. If you want to get to learn more about these strengths frameworks, how you can use it, I highly encourage you to not just attend today, but attend Gio's webinar, which uses VIA character strengths, and John's webinar, which uses Strengths Finder, so that you get more acquainted with those different tools. Yeah, and Maurice said in the chat, yes, there are other terms used like AI and SALT approach. Yes, that especially in an organizational level, when you use it for strat plans, there are other terms that they use. Sabi din niya, a self-assessment tool that assesses strengths of the individual and the community. So there are other tools as well. For our webinar this April, we're limiting ourselves to these three, which are actually, I believe, the most popular strengths frameworks for self-assessments. This is going to be our learning roadmap for today. So I know medyo nakaka-overwhelmed because I shared so many frameworks with you, but we'll break it down to the more simple things. This is our learning roadmap. We'll talk about why is being a coach leader key to maximizing your energy. I'll go deeper into Strengths Profile. I'll show you how to use it. I'll show you how they define strengths. And lastly, how can you make work more energizing for yourself and for your team? So first, I just want to check in with you. What is your usual energy level at work? You can either scan the QR code on the screen by turning on the camera of your phone and then pointing it to the screen, then click the little link that will pop up. Or you can click on the link that Gabby has posted in the chat box. There are 4 battery levels there. Generally, what would you say is your usual energy level at work? Maybe focus more on your recent experiences. What is your usual energy level at work? Okay, let's see your answers. So, I think yung pinakamarami itong, decently powered. They would say like for your phone, kind of you should keep it at least on this level. So 68% are there. 4% would say nandun na sila sa maubos yung battery nila. 14% would say paubos na. So again, 69% say yung decently charged, and 13% would say they have a lot of energy at work. They are fully charged for work. Thanks for sharing that. My next question is, so let's say you need a little bit more energy at work. How do you energize yourself at work? Especially on those days when you have a lot to do, a lot is on your plate. How do you energize yourself at work? It's the same link. Let's see some answers from people. Lalo na, for instance, at this time of the day, it's 3:15. You still have stuff to do after this. How do you energize yourself at work? Let's see the answers. I kind of expected this na for a lot of us, we're actually drinking caffeine and coffee, or maybe caffeine in the form of coffee and energy drink, or maybe a soda. I know some people, pag napapagod na sila and they just need that boost, they turn towards caffeine, food. They need sleep. They need to complete their sleep. Kain, sleep, kain. So when you talk about taking coffee, eating, getting sleep, you're actually recharging your physical energy. You're, getting more glucose in so that you can do more stuff. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes the problem is maybe your energy is not depleted. Maybe your physical energy is not depleted. So, like, let's say you have enough glucose, you have enough calories to burn, but you're not burning it enough. So when you use coffee, sleep, eating, that's really for your physical energy. For some people, like you're conversing with others, keeping the music on, is recharging. Talking to your colleagues is charging a different energy. So parang sometimes you just need a shift, diba? Sometimes I'm working, but I just need to shift my attention. I need to rev up my psychological energy. That's something that you do as well. But for a lot of people, they're saying, coffee. I think coffee yung pinakamalaking nakita ko dito. Exercise, eating, listening to music, praying, doing gratitude exercises is something that they also do as well. So very interesting how you know what are the typical tactics to energize yourself at work. I want to ask you another question. Was there ever a time na parang unusually you have so much energy kahit na puyat ka, kahit na you didn't have a lot of time to talk to other people, there was no music? Was there ever a time when you found yourself with a lot of energy at work? I want to ask you, what in particular were you doing? So for instance, for me, in 2012, I was actually assigned to become a teacher in Bukidnon. That was the least sleep I have ever gotten in my life, because I was doing so much preparations. I was teaching like 5 classes. It was my first time to be a teacher. So lesson plans had to be made fresh every day. So I didn't get a lot of like sleep, but for some reason I was so energized. The what I was doing at that time was teaching. So there was something about teaching that really fueled me with so much energy, even if I didn't get a lot of sleep. What are your answers here? Let's see your answers. Oh, okay. So when your music is something that energizes you, dessert, rushing a deadline. So it's interesting. Like someone said here, when you're finishing a report, parang dami mong energy. So maybe you like doing reports. Or for another person here, they say, pag may deadline rush, I know there are some people na kapag malapit na yung deadline, biglang they get a surge of energy. So something about that last minute thing. For some people, they like doing field work. I'm actually quite curious. Is it being outside? Is it talking to people? Is it like collecting specimen from nature? Like, what about the field work makes you super energized? Another person said when they're facilitating a group discussion. Another person, I think this really summarizes it all. If you were doing something that you loved, that is going to bring so much energy to you. Ito, someone said, organizing Excel formulas, like to me, that will probably want to be one of the most draining things that I would ever have to do. But for you, you find it very energizing. Someone attending a webinar, I can guess that when you're learning, you're really energized. Someone saying that when they're coaching and when they're mentoring, when they're reconciling items, when they're creating something, like when they're writing, when they're composing songs, that's beautiful. When they are filing documents, di ba? Iba-iba talaga tayong lahat. For some, it's talking. For some, it's being quiet with some reports. For some, it's being creative. For some, it's like doing something more clerical or something with a rhythm, with a routine. So, iba-iba yung nag-energize sa ating lahat. That's really important to take note of. So, let's talk about why is being a coach leader key to maximizing your energy. Indulge me on this little experiment that I have. Kunwari, may-ari ka ng fruit stand. Nung December, nag-peak yung sales mo. And now, at this April season, parang wala nang bumibili ng fruits. You and your sales head both saw that data. So, as the owner, what will you say to your sales head? As the owner or the leader of the organization, what would you say to your sales head? I think nawala, naligaw ang question. Let me just add another one right now. What would you say? What would you say? Okay. What would you say to your sales head? So you could either click on the link in Menti or scan the QR code on the screen. Just try to put yourself in that situation. Just indulge me on this. Anong sasabihin mo sa head of sales? The sales for your fruit stand is down. Let's see some of the answers. Okay. Some are like, okay, let's trust in God's timing. It's fine, shit happens, or it's okay, it will be in season soon. So parang for some, they kind of like resign na, okay, let's just go with the season. Another person said, let's innovate, let's re-strategize. Another person said, let's level up. Or some are making, parang acknowledging the reasons. Oh, this is interesting. One person asked, what else can we do to increase our sales? I think this is the question that is closest to being like a coach leader. yung asking, what else can we do to increase our sales? Because when you're asking the question to your sales head, hindi ikaw yung nagbibigay ng solution sa kanya. That person is a sales head, so dapat may expertise siya around what he or she is doing. So you posing this question can actually help them start getting creative about what they need to do. If we give very specific answers, sometimes it keeps that other person from coming up with their own solutions to the problems. So thank you for indulging me on this. So some people were saying, "Saan tayo nagkamali? Let's analyze the data." That's also good because you need to analyze the data so that you will be able to come up with the best strategy afterwards. So sometimes yung knee-jerk reaction, at least for me, in a like precarious situation, ang nagiging knee-jerk reaction ko sometimes is to micromanage. It's to tell the other person exactly what they have to do. That's micromanaging. So micromanaging is a management style where the supervisor or the manager closely observes, controls, and manages the work of their employees. This involves being excessively involved in the details of the tasks and projects to the point where the manager may be perceived as being overly controlling, critical, or interfering. A lot of people actually don't like it when they are being micromanaged. So I want to ask you, have you ever been micromanaged before? Is this something that you have experienced? Have you been micromanaged before? I have been micromanaged, but not for an extended period of time. Yung parang I felt like this person was breathing down my neck and just really telling me exactly what I had to do. So I kind of felt like I was just an extension of this person. So people are answering in the chat box, hell yeah, yes, extremely, yes, sometimes. Sabi ni Genevieve, yes, parang gusto mo na lang ibigay yung work sa kanila. Kasi kung if they're gonna manage down to the details, it gets challenging. Peps naman has another perspective, and Benjamin as well. They say sometimes it's needed. Pupunta din tayo dyan. So have you been micromanaged before? A lot of us have experienced it. Some lucky few are, no, they haven't been micromanaged. And maybe there's something different about your boss's or supervisor's leadership style. So I want to ask you, how does it feel to be micromanaged? For those of you who have experienced it before, how does it feel to be micromanaged? Someone actually said it here in the chat na parang gusto mo na lang ibigay yung work sa kanila. It feels like, for me, it feels like you don't trust me to do what I have to do to get this done. Some people are saying it's necessary, maybe because there is an absence of trust in that relationship. But for those who have experienced it, how does it feel to be micromanaged? Let's see your answers. Nakaka-intimidate. Yes, because sometimes parang, this other person's telling me exactly what I have to do. Do they not feel na I can do it right? Parang intimidation yung main feeling dyan. You feel sad because maybe you're feeling inadequate. You feel drained and exhausted. It's stifling. Wala kang self-identity. Diba? It's so hard sometimes to write your CV afterwards and say what you've accomplished, because what you've accomplished is to just do the task list that another person has set out for you. Nakakawala ng gana. It's frustrating. It's stressful. It makes you feel trapped and pressured. It's limiting. It makes you feel that you lack credibility. It's suffocating. It feels bad. It's parang walang trust. Nagkakaroon kayo ng trust issues. It makes you feel nervous and demotivated. It's degrading, nakakalungkot. You feel bothered and embarrassed. You're feeling competent and annoyed. You feel like your effort is not being seen in that situation. we've discussed in so many webinars that the three key ingredients of well-being are actually these three C's. This is one framework, at least, that we've shared: choice, connection, and competence. And in this instance, after everything you've shared here, you can see that these three key factors are being deteriorated by micromanaging, diba? Kasi you cannot manage yourself. Someone is telling you exactly what you have to do, in what way you have to do it. They're really like, being very nitty-gritty with the details and the process. So it kind of feels like I don't have a choice.
Ayan. So,
My Zoom crashed. I'm so sorry. So let me
ayan.
share my screen again. It's not everyone, it's me. It's not you. It's me. My Zoom really said that it crashed and I apologize for that. I'll report it to Zoom after this. Pero balik tayo sa topic natin, di ba? You saw here na ito yung mga experiences nyo pag nama-micromanaged kayo. So, it deteriorates these three key factors for well-being. It makes you feel like wala akong choice, kailangan ko lang sumunod. I can't even, innovate by myself. I can't even propose my own solutions because someone is telling me exactly what I have to do. It also makes you feel incompetent, 'di ba? Parang they won't let you do it yourself. That's why it makes you feel that you don't trust that I'm capable, you don't trust that I'm competent, and it actually deteriorates your relationship with your boss or that manager who is micromanaging you. As you mentioned here, 'di ba? Parang nagkakaroon kayo ng trust issues. So, even if you have good intentions, I know for a lot of people, they're saying that sometimes it's really necessary to have to micromanage. Sometimes I felt that way as well, and I know that we had good intentions for doing so. Nobody will have intentions of hurting another naman. They have good intentions, but if you think about these three key factors of well-being, you are deteriorating all three when you micromanage. Micromanaging research has shown that it reduces employee motivation, job satisfaction, and ironically, it also leads to a performance decline. So even if you had good intentions, it goes against what intentions you had. Your intention was to get results, going, pero it actually in the long run leads to a performance decline. Micromanaging is not just exhausting for the person that you are micromanaging. If you have experience being the one micromanaging, which I have experienced, it can be exhausting for you as well. It's exhausting for managers kasi kailangan ng high level of attention to the work of other people and so much control. So in my experience, when I was the one micromanaging others, parang doble-doble yung load ko. I have to do my own work as a manager and I have to parang, nitpick on the work of another person. So nakakapagod din siya. So it's actually a lose situation, yung micromanaging. I want to ask you, why do you think managers micromanage? They have good intentions. Why do you think they micromanage to begin with? Maybe they don't know the research, but to begin with, why do you think they even, focus so much on the work that you do and kind of breathe down your neck, telling you very specific instructions, what to do, how to do it? Why do you think they do it? Yes, so Amelin said it's for output. Sometimes, diba, you want things done a certain way. Ferdinand said, like, this is very perceptive. Sabi niya, ayaw pumalpak at perfectionist. So those are all reasons why micromanagers manage. Let's see more of your answers. to ensure productivity, minsan naghahabol ng deadline. Sometimes, like Gladys has said, they think so highly of themselves and their own ways of doing things that any other way to them is like subpar or wrong. So marami talagang they have control issues, they're afraid to fail, they don't trust, gusto nilang magpasikat. A lot of people are actually saying that it's a lack of trust. And for some, it's still a strategy to get results faster. They just want to get the job done. They want to have the desired output and they don't trust the output of others. They want to have good results. They have a fear of failure. They feel insecure. They want things done perfectly or a certain way and they want it done right away. It's they have trust issues. They're trying to follow an established system. They're afraid of getting low results. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing this, diba? Parang we can actually empathize with some people who are micromanaging. At the root of what you have all shared here is actually fear. They're afraid that they will not get the results that they hope for. They're afraid na they won't be able to parang show that result to the boss. They're afraid na baka hindi masundan yung proseso. They're afraid na baka hindi maabot yung target output. And when you're full of fear, it actually leads you to focus on the worst in people or the worst in situations. If you're full of fear, sometimes that leads you to focus on the worst in people. If I'm full of fear, I will focus on, oh, remember that one time na this person didn't get it done? So ayoko nang ibigay sa kanya ng hindi ako nagma-micromanage kasi baka hindi niya magawa ulit. Or remember that time when this person didn't reach the deadline or didn't follow the right process or gave an output pero hindi pala, parang hindi swak yung output. Fear makes you focus on the worst in people. So to counter it, see the best of people. And I'm going to show you how Strengths Profile as a tool can actually help you see the best of people. And it won't end with a cheesy, I see the best in you. It will end with a, I see the best in you and I can leverage the best in you so that you do an outcome that is possibly even way better than what I could have done on my own. I've been a micromanager before. It was because I was so afraid and I was so attached to a certain quality and that I couldn't let go of. But I realized when I finally let go, I'm now a reformed non-micromanager. When I finally let go and really, became a coach leader and help people understand their strengths, consistently, the output that people give to me is so much better than what I would have done on my own. So I am an advocate of being a coach leader now. It has transformed my life. I'm not as tired and as haggard as I used to be. And the output is actually so much better than what would have appeared had I been micromanaging. So I think being a coach leader is a win-win situation. Coaching brings a productivity boost. We mentioned this in a previous webinar that we'll link later. There's a 70% improvement in work performance, improved business management, improved team effectiveness, improved time management. There's also a positivity boost. Minsan kasi productivity boost lang, pero haggard lahat. But when coaching, there's also a positivity boost. There's 81% improvement in self-confidence, 61% improvement in relationships, an improvement in communication skills, and also an improvement in work-life balance. So it's really, as I see it, it's a win-win to be able to shift to this kind of coach leader approach. What is a coach leader? It's a leadership style that focuses on the value of coaching and mentoring to develop and guide employees to reach their full potential. So instead of micromanaging or telling others what to do, coach leaders empower others to create their own solutions. And when people are creating their own solutions, they are using their strengths to create that output, that result. They're a lot more energized at work. And because a lot of people these days are feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, and the targets are not shifting, maybe the shift should be in our approach. Instead of micromanaging, we can become coach leaders. Ferdinand said sa chat box, allow others to commit mistakes and to learn from these mistakes. That's actually a key part of being a coach leader. Because if you are always parang on guard, breathing down another person's neck, not letting them make a mistake, you have to be guiding them forever. Kasi yun yung makakasanayan nila and nakakapagod talaga yun. But if you give people some space to learn from their mistakes and they make their mistakes, they learn from it, that actually gives them, you would be able to like let go a bit more, focus your energy on some management tasks that you have to do and let this person just grow and take full ownership of the work that they're doing. Anna said maybe the targets were still pre-pandemic targets. So regardless of the targets that you are facing now, I really believe that this way of being a coach leader can help you out. So Gabby has linked the Coach Leader Ka Ba webinar that Gio has done. If you want more, practice and like seeing how the grow model can work, you can watch that webinar, save it for later. Gio is so good at explaining the grow model. We'll also be using this today. So ano ba tong grow model? Instead of telling a person exactly what they have to do, you ask them, what's the goal? Sometimes as a manager, the key role that you play is to make sure that the goals of the people you are managing is aligned to the objectives of your organization. You have that visually. Usually it's managers who have that clearer visual of what are the specific targets of the organization for the quarter, for the year. So that is something that you can establish with the person that you are managing. And then you go over to the reality. How are things now? What's working? What's not working? And then you ask the question, ano yung options ng tao na to? So you don't come in with all of the solutions. You ask questions so that the people will be able to answer and give the solution themselves. Ask them, what are the options? Anong posible? What would be the most helpful thing that you can do? And then have them develop the way forward. Instead of telling them exactly what they have to do next, ask them, what are you going to do next? What are other things that you have to consider before you start? So the grow model is a simple way of coaching. Instead of you supplying the answers, you will ask the right questions so that the person you're managing comes up with their own solutions. Mas nakaka-proud talaga if you're able to come up with your own solutions, if you're able to, really take full ownership of your achievements. It's really something that could really fill another person up. So instead of supplying them with answers, telling them exactly what to do, giving them a step-by-step of what they should do, at what time they should do it, try to employ this GROW model. So GROW stands for setting the goal, reality, options, and the way forward. So like I said, if you want to learn more about that and practice that while listening to Gia's webinar, we recorded it and Gabby pasted the link in the chat box. I love this quote. I don't know if it's just me and my feed, but it seems like there is a resurgence of this quote. You often feel tired, not because you've done too much, but because you've done too little of what sparks a light in you. I'm a big believer of this. Maybe it's not that we're doing so much work, nakatambak, ang daming deadlines. Sometimes it's a part of it. But I think a really big part is of what exhausts us is that we do too little of what sparks a light in you. I know there were so many instances in my life and in the lives of others that I've heard. Now, my gosh, there were times when they were at their best nung ang dami-dami nilang ginagawa and there were so many challenges up ahead in front of them. What's very different about the people who are, very productive or doing so much but still have so much energy, and the people who have a lot to do but crumble, is that some people are able to realize what sparks a light in them, and they are able to mold their career around those things that they are good at doing. And I want you to be able to do the same because the spark is in everyone. Sometimes merong distrust na, oh, will this person be able to do it? May say ba yung this person being in my company? I'm a big believer that this spark is in everyone. So let's unpack how we can bring out that spark in everyone. I'm going to be talking about how you can use Strengths Profile as a tool, and I'm going to talk about what are its definitions. What is the definition of strengths for Strengths Profile? Someone said, as Joanna said in the chat box, it's so true. This resonates so much. It's a quote that I live by, to focus on what brings a spark in you. Because when you use your strengths, you excel in the task, work becomes easy, the task is enjoyable, and you're going to be energized. So I know there have been so many instances na kahit ang hirap-hirap ng pinapagawa, basta I have that opportunity to use my strengths, I'll still feel energized about it. Strengths are strong neural connections, and it is where your advantages are. So this is the key difference for Strengths Profile that I believe the other, not to compete with other profiles, but I believe that this is the key difference of Strengths Profile as a tool. Not only will it recognize performance as a strength, it's important na you are energized by the activity. If you perform it well, but you don't find it energizing, that's not counted as a strength. So the three qualities of a strength is good performance, it's something that is energizing, and it's something that you actually use. So it's important, I believe, to assess your strengths. Research has shown that only 1 in 3 people can say what their strengths are. And unfortunately, even if people say that they know their strengths, most will still get it wrong. And that's where a Strengths Profile comes in, because it can help you, like, supply to you the exact activities that can be considered your realized strengths, the things that you perform well, that you find energizing, and that you use often. It will also categorize things that you perform well and are energizing, pero hindi mo nagagamit. Diba? Minsan, there were phases in our lives na we were so good at doing something, but because we switched to another role, we went to another organization, biglang hindi na natin nagamit yun. So it will help you realize that. It will also help you realize ano yung mga learned behavior. It's something that you perform well, but it's de-energizing to you and you don't use it as frequently. Variable yung use niya. So I know so many people who have made a career out of their learned behaviors, because sometimes people say, oh, ang galing-galing mo dito, keep doing it. Little do they know, it actually kills your soul inside. Some people don't realize that learned behaviors are not strengths. If you don't find it energizing, that's not considered a strength in strengths profile. And there are weaknesses. You perform it poorly na nga, de-energizing pa siya, and it's variable use. So how can we make more energizing for ourselves and for our team? I'll let you know how I use the strengths profile. I'll use myself as an example for this one, how I managed it myself. If we have time, I'll also show you another person's profile so that we can examine how could we coach that particular person. So here's my results. I'll be very vulnerable with you about what are my strengths and weaknesses. So how can we actually use grow when we are unpacking another person's strengths? So first, dun tayo sa realized strengths. These are things that you perform well, it's energizing, and you use it often. So these are my realized strengths. Incubator, when you take the test, actually, it will help you, it will give you the definition for each one of those. So incubator actually means that I love to think. I think people will know na, people who know me well would know na kahit wala akong TV, kahit wala akong phone, wala akong libro, I can just entertain myself by thinking deeply about things. So I love to think. I need a lot of time to think as well. Another realized strength that I have is listener. I could listen to people for hours and I'll remember the details that they have shared with me long after the conversation is done because I'm really like focusing talaga my attention when I listen. Another realized strength is gratitude. Like I love to be grateful for things that I have, for what people have done for me. I always make it a point to say thank you. And I have other realized strengths here as well. It's really important that if you have strengths, use it wisely. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Can I just like use it to the max? Because it's my strength, it's so easy for me. Let's focus on my top strength, incubator. There is a golden mean to all of the strengths. Let's say there's an optimal use for it. Yung incubator, if I use it too much, if I'm over here sa incubator, I'm just gonna be thinking and not acting on things. So there is a thing na sobra yung use mo ng strengths. Another person, for instance, her top strength is competitive. Pero kung lagi siyang nakikipag-compete sa mga tao, then sometimes that puts other people off. Or sometimes people are like, I'm not even competing with you and you're competing with me. So there is something as like strengths overplaying. You're using it too much. Here's the opposite when you underplay your strengths, especially when people get feedback about the overuse of strengths. Sometimes, yung nagiging tendency is they will underplay their strengths. Like, for instance, nung nabigyan ako ng feedback na, Nikki, you take forever to think. So what I did next was, okay, you know what? I just won't think. I'll just go. And I ended up making poor decisions. So it's not asking you to stop using your strength altogether and underplaying it. Just have an optimal use for your strengths. So Gladys asked in the chat box, how can we determine our strength profile? Is there an app or a website for this? Yes, there is one. We'll put the link in the chat box. I think we can put it now and we can put it again later as a reminder. So if you click that link, it will lead you to the free strengths profile assessment. You don't have to pay, especially if you're still in that exploring stage. My recommendation is start off with the free ones if you have access to it. And then later, if you get so intrigued, you want more, you can actually unlock your profile. So I made sure that the link we gave to you is access to the free one. If you want to unlock it, you can actually do that as well. But may bayad na if you unlock it. So that's the realized strengths. So when you take the test and you figure out what are your realized strengths, reflect about how you can channel your strengths during a challenging situation. Or if you're the coach leader, you ask the person, how can you use your strengths to be able to do this particular goal or this particular task? So you would want to allow people to customize their approach and their solutions kasi iba-iba tayong lahat. There are different things that make us energized, and there are different things na pag pinagawa mo sa akin, I'm going to burn out at work. Again, I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties that we will solve later. So, balikan ko to. Itong realized strengths. If you know people, if you have them take the test and they realize their strengths, you can have them reflect, paano mo magagamit itong mga to help you reach the goal in our organization or the target of our team. If you have a more customized approach towards guiding others, that will really allow them to, ignite that spark in them. So when I coach others, I start off with the realized strengths. How I go through this is I start off with the realized strengths here, and then I go to the learned behaviors next. And then after that, I go and discuss their weaknesses before I approach unrealized strengths. It's a nice approach kasi in the end, it's like you discover little treasures. Yung hidden treasure is like the unrealized strengths. Something that they're good at, but they are not using as frequent. So that's our approach. That's the approach that I use towards this. So start off with the realized strengths and then go towards the learned behaviors. So what are learned behaviors? You perform it well, but it's de-energizing and variable use, meaning you don't necessarily use it often. So here's my learned behaviors actually. Work ethic, meaning if you make me work nonstop, mapapagod talaga ako. Detail is challenging for me. I just kind of like to skim through things. Having to be adaptable as well. Like if the circumstances keep changing, if the context keeps changing, I am able to perform well, pero napapagod talaga ako. The same goes with coming up with strategies and having that strategic awareness. So what are things that you can do when a person realizes their learned behaviors? You can actually have them think, who is someone in the team that can support you here? The nice thing about working in organizations and not working by yourself is that you are part of a team. But what often happens in organizations is parang nakasilo pa rin yung approach natin. I honestly think we kind of have school to blame for having that silo approach. Kahit na you say na you're part of a team, it seems like in many organizations, people are still left to do things on their own when they have so many people that they can ask for support from. So if you want to have a strengths-based approach in your organization, I highly encourage you to not just take this test for yourself, but to bring it to your team as well. You could create a chat and say, team leaders, please explore this tool. You could message us in Positive Workplaces and we could do that workshop for your team. It's so much more powerful when you approach strengths as a team. And I'll show you why in this instance. For instance, detail, oh gosh, I can do it well. I've learned to be more detailed because I wouldn't have succeeded in school, at work, if I didn't have that detail orientation. But if I had to focus on detail all the time, I get really tired. Luckily, my co-founder, John, that's actually one of his realized strengths. He loves getting nitty-gritty on the details that he's seeing. He loves giving feedback to people on those details that he sees, how something can still be improved further. So, you could partner when someone you are managing, they see learned behaviors na yes, they perform it well. Help them manage it by asking them who in the team can support them. Because if I had to do all of these detail work by myself, for instance, it might take me, let's say, 3 hours to do it. But if John was helping me and spotting things with me, it might take me 15 minutes to do it. Sobrang dami ng time na nasisave. And I can actually do the same for John as well. Maybe he has other learned behaviors that are hard for him or weaknesses that are hard for him. He can actually ask for my support there. So that's the beauty of working in teams. And hopefully we move away from just doing everything ourselves to seeing the strengths that other people have and asking them to give that support to us as well. And us giving the best of who we are to others. And then we have weaknesses. We all have weaknesses and it's okay. These are things that we perform poorly. It's de-energizing and merong may variable use. So you don't necessarily perform it consistently. So the first thing to ask if you're managing someone and you see their weaknesses, the first thing to ask them and yourself is there a risk? Meaning, if this goes uncontrolled, if this weakness goes unchecked, will there be a risk to the organization? Let me show you mine. Change agent. Usually, in my past work, wala namang risk yung change agent because I have been part of like bigger organizations where there is a set way of doing things. There was no need for change or innovation. But when I started Positive Workplaces, yes, nagkaroon na ng risk because if I didn't have that delight and enthusiasm for change, I don't think our company would have survived. Like for instance, we actually started conceptualizing Positive Workplaces right before the pandemic started. We had plans, we already had like a list of clients, a list of things to do, but the pandemic happened and suddenly we had to scrap all of our plans and change everything. And I was really, really down about that. I kept telling John, this is not what I planned, or this is not what I wanted to do, or kapag face-to-face tong workshop na to, I would know exactly what to do, but it's not face-to-face. So change agent was actually a weakness for me. I didn't have that enthusiasm for change. I was so desperate for things to go back to the way that things used to be. So there was a risk in this instance. If I left this unchecked, I wouldn't have survived doing the role or what I had to do. So something that you can do as well is check some of your realized or unrealized strengths. You can, if you're managing another person, you can ask them, okay, what can you pair it with? Like, for instance, change agent was super necessary. I had to learn how to become flexible because everything changed at the onset of the pandemic. Wala nang face-to-face engagements and trainings. Everything had to go online. And that was giving me a lot of anxiety and worry. But because I paired it with another unrealized strength, adventure. Like, I love to go on adventures. I love to do something uh, like I love to explore new places. I love to explore a new lifestyle. I just try to think of the change as an adventure. Here's another one that I paired it with. I love to learn and I'm very curious about things. So I just approached all of the changes that we were going to make with curiosity. Parang I asked people, oh, what is your current experience with learning? How what are the things that you want to learn during the pandemic? When I changed everything, my mindset towards just using curiosity a lot more, I was able to manage this weakness. Sometimes you can also ask for the help of another person. So when you see those learned behaviors and those weaknesses, you ask, how can you use a specific learned behavior or weakness less? Is there a strength you can pair it with? Is there another person that you can ask for support from? Here's an example, di ba? As I told you earlier, minsan, nahihiya tayo humingi ng tulong because it's like we are making our load more efficient, but we're giving an extra load to another person. But it goes two-way naman eh. So it's okay. For instance, di ba, detail, I wasn't great at it. I needed John's help. But let's look at John's weaknesses as well. Like he has unconditionality. Mas lalo na dati. I think John has changed a lot actually over the last couple of years. But he did say before that unconditionality is a weakness, meaning it was so hard for him to be forgiving and to still accept poor performance, especially. So we had that conversation before. Na he said, like, Nikki, if I'm having a hard time, parang if I'm getting irritated or frustrated with a person because they're not reaching their targets or they're not doing what I expect them to do, can I pass this person? Can I ask you to first speak with this person muna? And I say I'm happy to do it because I have unconditionality as my strength. It actually means that I have an immense capacity to genuinely accept and respect people for who they are without ever judging them. My mantra in life is that people are doing the best that they can. If they knew how to do better, then they would actually do better. But at that moment, given the resources that they have, given the knowledge and awareness that they have, they're already doing the best that they can. So how can I not respect them? No matter of what thing they've done wrong, no matter the ways that they have hurt me for not being able to meet my expectations, it's so easy for me to forgive and still see the best in that person. I accept everyone the same. So that's something that's easy for me. It's harder for John, especially before for that instance. So people who have weaknesses in a certain area, they can actually approach their team member for support for some of these. So whenever when you are a coach leader and you are processing the weaknesses of a member of your team, don't shame them for their weaknesses. Instead, ask them how would they manage it. If they have that self-awareness, they can pair it with some of their strengths or maybe some of their habits that they do to manage the weaknesses. It's nice when the entire team knows their strengths profile because then you can actually match with each other. Some of my favorite face-to-face activities is to have people, for every weakness that you have, like match it with another person and let's see if everyone will be able to connect and find a match in the end. And in all of my experiences working with a team, they were able to find matches there. So don't think that there's nobody who can help you out. If you're a little creative, you can find ways so that your weaknesses can be matched and helped by another person's strengths. And then this is the last quadrant that you explore. It's nice to end with this because it's like you're exploring hidden treasures, unrealized strengths. So they're not quite strengths yet. You perform it well and it's energizing. But if you don't use it, it's unrealized, diba? If you don't use curiosity, if nobody ever sees you being curious, if you don't ever show that curiosity in the world, it's unrealized kasi hindi mo siya ginagamit. But you can help people come up with an action plan of how they can use their unrealized strengths. So here's one activity that you can suggest to the members of your team. Have them list down all of their unrealized strengths and then rank it based on how energizing that is for them. So for instance, among all of these, yung pinaka energizing for me would be catalyst. I love encouraging people to transform, to try something new, to try something different. So maybe something I can do is to encourage the people around me to start a project and align that with their goals and their purpose. I also love using my curiosity. Minsan kasi if I'm set in ways of doing things, I don't have the opportunity to use curiosity anymore. But when you help people explore their unrealized strengths, parang nare-realize nila, there's actually more opportunities for me to use this. Or maybe they set it aside kasi nagbago yung role nila. Or maybe they set it aside because simply they focus on other strengths in their life. So there's an opportunity for them to use it again, especially in the face of new challenges. When there are new challenges, you feel like, I think I need more weapons to face the challenges. Your weapons can be your unrealized strengths. So especially during the pandemic, I actually made this plan in, I think, April 2020 when the pandemic started. So I've applied it. My unrealized strength was curiosity. An idea to use it more is to study positive psychology and, study how the world will look like after the pandemic. So as you help people unpack their unrealized strengths, have them commit to how they can use those strengths even more. So that actually brings us towards the end of our webinar, and we're going to start a Q&A. So as a recap, being a coach leader these days is so important. You're going to save your energy. You're going to save the energy of the people around you. It's a win-win situation. Strengths Profile is a tool that has a free version that I love so much that you can actually bring to everyone in your team with no cost. Some things that you could do, you could link the assessment and this webinar to them. You could message Positive Workplaces on Facebook, inquiring about those Strengths Profile workshops that we do for teams. I highly encourage that after this webinar, take it and do these activities for yourself before you attempt to do it for another person. And I'm hopeful that, because you take Strengths Profile, you will have a clear idea of your strengths and you will have a more objective way of seeing the best in others. That's really I feel like it's a big calling that I have in life to help everyone recognize their strengths. So thank you so much to the 520 people who are here, who, learn more about this. It's such a privilege to be able to discuss this with you. So I turn it over to you, Joyce.
Yay! Thank you so much, Nikki. And we've learned so much about it. And now we will go to our Q&A. So if you have questions, you can scan the QR code on your screen and enter the passcode maximize, or you can also click the link that Gabby provided. Yeah. So we'll just go to that slide. Ayan. So habang naghihintay tayo ng questions, Nikki, I would just like to commend you kasi every time parang I hear this, sometimes I get confused pa, pero whenever I hear you discussing it, sobrang nalilinawan talaga ako na, oh my God. And meron pala mo talagang mga, we can match yung mga unrealized strengths and our weaknesses. And sobrang nakakatuwa na, we have that also in positive workplaces. So ayan, we have questions na. What do you want to answer first, Nikki?
Maybe the first one na lang.
Okay. So, paano ko pa po ma-encourage ang mga kasama ko kung pati ang immediate supervisor namin is hindi marunong makinig sa mga team leader na gaya namin?
Yes, I know you are in a tricky situation, diba? Sometimes, if you don't experience something, it's tempting to just give up altogether. Lalo na I just want to reassure you that you are not the only parang middle manager who has mentioned something like this to me. Sometimes it's hard to start a new way of doing things when you yourself don't experience sa supervisors nyo na nakikinig sila sa inyo. But I know it's extra hard for you, but I still encourage you to believe that you can create subcultures. Kahit na hindi ito yung kultura ng organization, hindi ito yung kultura ng unit nyo, you can make a change by starting that subculture with you and kahit your immediate team. Let's say you and all of the subordinates that you have. Let's say kahit 5 lang kayo. Basta you do that for each other, it's gonna strengthen you to keep at that behavior. And you never know if people start seeing the benefits of listening, of not micromanaging, of being more of a coach leader, if they see that you are performing better because of that style, you never know, they might learn na, oh, what are you doing? And maybe it's time for us to shift our behavior. So palakasan na lang. Like, instead of letting them crumble you, be stronger, maging mas matatag kayo, create a subculture of what culture you really want. And I believe that if you do that, you would have more opportunities to influence others.
Yay,
Stay strong to the middle managers na walang supportive immediate supervisors.
Thank you so much, Nikki. And I like what you said na kahit 5 lang sila, I think it would really help na mag-strengthen talaga sa kanila if they would practice this also. So yeah, and what do you want to answer next, Nikki?
The one with one vote. So again, for everyone else, if you want for a particular question to be answered, i-upvote niyo lang siya.
So it says, how can you help a senior or a boss change to become a coach leader when he is used to micromanage, noting the fact that he fails the annual neuro exam?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I really believe in like a more positive approach towards encouraging another person. Like, minsan kasi if we say, sir, parang wala ka talagang skill sa pagiging coach leader, micromanager ka talaga, parang it becomes as an attack that you would want to guard yourself against and be defensive about. Parang if you approach it with an attack, lalo na kapag may power dynamic and the power levels are not equal, that might lead to a shutdown of listening. If you can have like small opportunities, I don't know who your senior or boss is, but maybe if there was one thing that this boss did right, let's say there was one instance that this boss asked a question instead of directly providing a solution. You could actually tell that boss, sir, ma'am, nung time na tinanong niyo muna sa amin kung ano yung pwede kong gawin, you gave me that space to really think about what is the next best thing to do. I really appreciated that. Mas naging critical thinker ako in that instance. Whatever small behavior, anything that they are doing that aligns to being a coach leader, I do encourage that you praise them. Maybe even drop a note to your organization na, okay, like HR, learning and development, consider having people attend these webinars or consider having our team go through a workshop with positive workplaces. That has actually happened a lot. Like one person attended this webinar, sinuggest niya sa boss niya, and now there is actually a plan in motion to have the higher ups and the one downs all undergo a training with positive workplaces. So that is something that is possible. But if you are still at that starting stage, just any good feedback that you can give to reinforce any good behavior that you've seen, you can start there. It's better to praise than to antagonize someone. So find something good. I really believe there is at least a small thing that a person is doing well. So good luck. Good luck to you and your boss.
Thank you so much, Nikki. And I saw the unconditionality there also with what you said. So ayan, maybe we have more time pa for few questions pa.
Thanks for strength spotting, Joyce. Maybe we can go with the one with 5 votes.
Okay, in your point of view as a coach, how do you differentiate guidance and micromanaging?
I think the biggest one is with guidance, you have a structure for asking questions and drawing out the capability of the other person. So one of the structures that we shared today is grow. If you are kind of new into figuring out how to become a coach leader, just use grow as your código. Ask the person their goals, ask the person what is their reality, what are their options, and what is their way forward. 'Di ba? I was very new to grow in 2019, but now it's like a framework at the back of my mind. If you, instead of supplying solutions, are asking questions instead, that is a key difference to becoming more of a guide and less of a micromanager. So I hope that answers your question.
Yay, thank you so much, Nikki. And I think we can go to this one. Do you want this question?
Yeah.
Anong dapat gawin kapag meron kaming sinasabi sa supervisor namin? Nakikinig naman siya, pero kapag nandoon na kami sa situation na yan, hindi niya ina-acknowledge, pinapasa niya sa amin ang bola.
Ooh, okay. That's a tricky one. Someone put here, possibly because the RASI matrix is unclear. You know what? This is not an unusual situation. Minsan, you have agreements with your supervisor, and at certain points, they are good listeners. Pero in a more high-stress situation, nakakalimutan nila yung conversation o yung agreement. In this situation, it's not entirely wrong na pinasa sa inyo yung bola or binigay sa inyo ang responsibility to act in this situation. I have a sense na yung naging kulang in this situation is that you were not fully prepared na mapasa ang bola sa inyo. So in this situation, maybe in the future, you could give feedback to your boss na what are other support that you need bago mapasa ang bola sa inyo. Sometimes people ask for specific trainings kasi they feel that with their current capabilities and their current skill set, they're not yet ready to take on the next level of responsibility. So you could plan as early as now. What are specific trainings? Be proactive about the situation. What are specific trainings that you can ask for so that you can be more ready in the future? O kaya naman, what are specific conditions that you would like bago mapasa sa inyo ang bola? For instance, for me, when I was dealing with a manager na parang ipapasa akin and then I'm not ready, I'm not fully aware of the situation. So parang we started this system, and we institutionalized this system that before we give the ball to another person, that person first needs to create a full briefer explaining the context, explaining the people we were dealing with, explaining the situation and all the pertinent details bago mapasa yung bola. When I had all of that information, it became less daunting for the ball to be passed. So you can be proactive, ask for a specific training or a specific document or need or briefer or anything so that you feel more prepared for the next level of responsibility.
Yay. Thank you so much, Nikki. And I really like what you said na be proactive about it. Kasi sometimes parang nakakatakot talaga kasi syempre yung power distance medyo, oh my God, baka mamaya magalit siya sa akin. Pero yeah, I think it would make our work better kapag magiging proactive tayo. Yan. So let's
Yes.
proceed with this one, Nikki.
Yes, go for it.
Okay. Do you have any recommendations for any reading material that encourage maximizing your energy as a coach?
Yeah, actually, since strength profile ang diniscuss ko today, you could actually go to their website and explore the many resources that they have. If I can share my screen for a minute, Joyce, let me open the website para I can show you what are some of their resources that they make available for everybody online. And what are some resources that you can even purchase if you wanted to. So let me share my screen. Maximizing energy is really the key aspect of strengths profiles. Let me just log in. When you do a test, you could actually automatically create an account with them. And when you have an account, you can explore some of the resources that they have. Like for instance, you want to get more acquainted with this, ano ba yung mga research at mga libro na meron sila? You can download a PDF. You just have to supply some details or watch their video. So they have so much resources. They even have their YouTube channel. So if you want to deep dive on more of their resources, sobrang dami talaga. I even have their book. I don't know if they made it available, but they make so many resources available, and they also have books out there in the market. So if maximizing energy is your question, I love Strengths Profile as a tool. They have so many webinar recordings as well, or so much books, videos that they make accessible. So if you're interested, do explore their website, strengthsprofile.com. So yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nikki. And I think very helpful yon, especially sa mga nagsistart pa lang maintindihan yung strengths profile. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think we can answer a last question considering yung time. So what do you want to answer, Nikki?
Let me read for a moment.
Okay.
Okay. Medyo challenging itong first question na may 3 votes. Let's go for that, Joyce.
Okay. How will you implement coach leadership to personnel whose main motivation to work is to have a passive income and lacks accountability on things? Background 50 plus age, just waiting for what's this?
Mandatory retirement benefits. Yes, this is an interesting question. And I actually see this, parang if you're steeped in TikTok, IG Reels, whenever I scroll, I always see some of the most popular videos are from people saying, this is how you get rich fast and with no effort. Parang, I feel like it's not just for people who are older, but I feel like this is kind of like a mindset, maybe a response as well na pagod na tayo. Pagod na tayo. And so people have this dream of just, how can I leech off of work? How can I get rich without doing anything? How can I earn without putting effort? This is not just for people who are 50 plus and waiting for their retirement. It's also for younger people now, actually. Unfortunately, I think it's a response na pagod na yung mga tao. But if you are able to introduce strengths profile to them, if you show them how it has benefited you and how it has made you so parang passionate about the work that you are doing, I think they would be curious about what ignited that fire in you. If you're able to explain your journey, and say what strengths that you were able to use, I think that's another like a mission that maybe together we can do and figure out. If you show people how happy you are working, being at your best because you are using your strengths, maybe we can influence a lot more people. Now there's so much more to work than just using work as a cash cow. To me, work is a source of engagement. You'll see like Joyce, Gabby, and I, we actually are good friends behind the scenes. People in positive workplaces are good friends behind the scenes because work is not just for us to get some money. It's a way for us to live out our mission, live out our values, to serve others as well. So that is another mentality that we can spread. And I really believe that strengths profile is going to be a key tool to let you make that perspective happen, because it's not a one size fits all approach. What works for me will not work for Joyce. What works for Joyce will not work for you. You need to discover what are those strengths that give you a spark. You need to help others learn about this resource, about how they can discover what are their strengths and what gives them a spark, so that we can influence them to see that there's really so much more to work than just the money. So with that, I hope you can share the resources, share this webinar, share the assessment that we've given you, and you get to really influence a lot more people to be more engaged at work.
Yay! Thank you so much, Nikki. And I really love your answer na work is more than just the money. Kasi that's really true. Like, you should also live out your values. And ayan, sobrang dami pang questions, but we're truly sorry kasi hindi natin masasagot lahat. But we'll find a way to answer your questions in the future. And syempre, we would also like to thank Nikki for leading us this April. So ayan, thank you so much, Nikki, for leading the first webinar for April. And kung nagustuhan niyo po yung webinar ni Nikki, we highly encourage you to register for Gio's webinar on April 19 next week po, and on May 3. So May 3 po yan kasi medyo busy po kami ng mga susunod na months, susunod na weeks, pero yan, magkikita pa rin naman tayo sa May 3. So, ayan, para mas maging equipped pa po tayo when it comes to strengths. And of course, kung feeling nyo po, parang need nyo pa rin ma-maximize yung communication skills nyo, we highly encourage you guys to enroll in our positive communication course. That will happen this Friday na. So pwede pa po kayong humabol if interested kayo. And we also encourage you guys to follow us on Facebook kasi may sinashare po kami mga thought leadership posts dyan na baka na-experience na rin, like yung moving on after leaving a job, or like hustling sa mga jobs na meron kayo ngayon. And we also encourage you to also follow us on Facebook para updated kayo sa mga free webinars namin and other courses that will happen in the future.
I just really want to appeal on that, Joyce. We've done so much work to create so much free content para kahit na your friends are not here, your colleagues are not here, they can still, be part of the learning, get all of these updates. Parang if you have toxic colleagues, toxic bosses, share our posts. Maybe something they learn will influence a future change in their behavior. So for me, we will not rest. For us, our team, we will not rest hanggat may toxic boss at colleague pa dyan sa mundo. So please, please, please help us out. Spread the message of creating a more positive workplace. A big, big help would be for you to invite your friends to follow us on our Facebook page. Kasi kung tayo-tayo lang yung gagawa ng inner work, it wouldn't change our environment and the system so much. But if you share our posts and follow us, ask your friends to follow us, we will have a bigger impact on the world. So please, please follow us and ask people to follow us too.
Yay! Thank you so much, Nikki. And also, if baka feeling nyo, need nyo ng session sa mga organizations nyo, nag-offer din po kami ng mga learning sessions. You can email us at drive@positiveworkplaces.org.